Hey guys, my name's Dean Hoffman. I've been a friend and participant at Paragon for about 10 years now. And my wife Laura is also avid Paragon, I'd say, athlete. And two of her favorite running partners are Betsy and Laurel. So what we're doing today is kind of talking about the things that Laura carries in her running pack. The impetus for this was my parents asked me for a list of gear they should carry when they're going out adventuring, and I just sent them everything that Laura carries on her long runs and adventures. Then talked to Laurel and Betsy about it and thought that this might be worth sharing with the rest of the Paragon team and anybody else that's out there adventuring. So I'm not an expert survivalist by any means. There's a definite difference between survival and bushcraft. Bushcraft would be more of making spoons with your pocket knife and doing friction by fire, working on your primitive skills, where survival is getting you through the night or getting you through whatever the time frame is till somebody can come rescue you or you can rescue yourself. Some local examples or recent examples of this would be last year there was the ultra marathon in China where I want to say 70 some participants unfortunately died. Just last month up in Utah there was another ultra marathon where all the participants had to be rescued. Locally we've had some climbers got stuck on a route down in Sedona. They spent the night, long and cold. I recently was on a rescue of a hunter who was out hiking with his daughter and broke his ankle and didn't have a good way to get out of his situation. And that was just less than an hour south of Flagstaff. So wherever you're going, even if it's local, you should have some sort of kit with you and be mentally prepared if something bad were to happen. Super surprising. So without getting too much into the weeds on survival and risk assessment, I'll just tell you what Laura carries in her running pack. Brought a scale, so as you're watching this and freaking out about how much weight you're adding to your pack, you can actually see what the total weight would be. So one of the first things she carries is a space blanket. This is the one that lives in her pack. There's a lot of different ones on the market, but this is the one that we chose for her. They also make a two-person shelter, and based on how big your trip is or your group is, you might change what you're carrying accordingly. So we'll put this in the... Oh, before I do, I just want to say that this is not just for when it's cold. If you're running in the desert or adventuring in the desert in the summer, there's not a lot of shade options. If you have something like this, you can rig a shade and get yourself out of the sun, which can be just as dangerous as being too cold. I'll put that in the bowl to weigh later. Also, we've got two light sources. Most of you are probably carrying a headlamp with you, which is great. But also, in Laura's pack, she carries one of these little Streamlight Nano lights. Super bright, super cheap, and super small. Batteries fail. It's always good to have a backup. This is a good small backup. If you're stuck somewhere overnight and you're waiting for, say, a helicopter to come, the light from this will be able to pick up with our night vision goggles super easily. So these are two good things to have. Also in her kit, she carries a fire kit. We've got a lighter, and then we've got I don't know what you would call this, a fire rod, a striker. This sends a spray of sparks. There you go. So don't worry, we're not asking you to do a primitive fire. She also carries in the kit some cotton balls that have been impregnated with Vaseline. So Just get some cotton balls, squish a bunch of Vaseline in them, put them in this. The way it would work, you've got your Vaseline ball here. This little Altoid tin is what she carries it in, and it's good because it helps keep you out of the wind. It gives you a dry surface if you're trying to start your fire. Hopefully this will work for me. Now I got Vaseline all over my fingers. But pretty quick and easy. And it burns for about 3 minutes, so you should be able to get your fire started with that 3 minutes. My hope is that I'm going to close this, it's going to go out. So we'll just put that over to the side. These things are super handy. Use them to start the barbecue all the time. Use them to start the camp stove. Practice with it, get used to it. A really good tool to have. And then the lighter. Ideally, the lighter will work and you won't have to use the fire striker or vice versa. But if you're wet and you're cold, if this is wet, it's not going to be as effective. I'll do a little demonstration here in just a minute with Laurel, but if you can imagine trying to start this lighter with frozen hands or gloves on, or worst case scenario, say you're using your non-dominant hand or you're bloody, what have you, this might not be as easy as the striker. Okay, so one of the things that I think a lot of people will also freak out about, the idea of carrying a knife, but Laura carries this knife in her running pack. This is the Mora Eldris. Mora is a super economical brand. Their general purpose knife is probably one of the most highly regarded bushcraft, survival, hunting, fishing, do everything knives on the market. This is just quite a bit smaller. So there it is. It's a fixed blade knife, and the reason that that's important is because, again, if you're cold, if you're using your non-dominant hand, if you can only use one hand, if your hands are wet, water, mud, blood, what have you, it might be really hard to open something like a Leatherman. This does weigh significantly more, but it might be hard to open something like a Leatherman, say if you've only got one hand, right? This is going to be hard to get out and hard to utilize. So this is, again, what she carries. It's been wrapped with paracord, which is super useful in the backcountry for helping build your shelters, for repairing gear. There was a conversation on one of the runs about repairing Laurel's microspikes with this. They didn't actually use it, but they could have. And this is the little lanyard here is where that micro light lives, is on the lanyard. Some other options on the market for the fixed blade knives. This is the one I carry. It's a Gerber. I believe it's called the Gerber Principal. I'm not as worried about weight, so I carry something a little bit bigger. Gerber also has some smaller ones, the Spine and the Vertebrae. They're all great knives. Small, compact, relatively lightweight. So moving down the list, life straw. Most of you are going to be carrying plenty of water for whatever you're doing, but if you get stuck out there longer than expected, having an alternative water source might be nice. I got stuck on top of a route in Red Rocks for a night. We were out of water. It was very annoying, to say the least. So this is super light. It is a little bit bulky, but it works great. The other standby is the iodine tablets, but if you ever drank anything with the iodine in it, it tastes horrible. So I'll put that in there. Pretty much all of us are carrying a cell phone these days. It's a fantastic tool, and most of the time you're going to have service. You're going to be able to call for help if you need it. But with the cell phone, we know the batteries are finite, especially if it's cold out. So if Laura's going on her longer runs, she carries a energy or power stick like this. This is the Goal Zero. I'm sure it has a name, but again, it works great for us. We have a larger one we take when we go camping, and it'll give you a couple phone charges off this. Really important to remember is to bring the right charging cable. It'd be a bummer to be out there with your iPhone and have the charger for a Samsung or one of the other phones. So that's what she also takes. And then we've got the Locator Beacon. Spot is the one that we chose. We don't need anything fancy. There's InReach, there's other Garmin devices. They are all fantastic. Thing to remember with this, you have to remember to turn it on. You have to remember to hit the button if you need help. This has been great for our family because it allows me to see where Laura is on her run and kind of time accordingly. When Laura and Betsy were doing a rim to rim run, I was able to meet them at the south rim exactly as they were topping out on the Bright Angel. If you're traveling in canyon country, you might have spotty service with this and with all the devices, because if you can't see the sky, the satellites can't see you. I've got two friends locally that have had to deploy this. One was canyoneering just off of Woody Mountain Road, and the other was on the, I think the west rim of the Grand Canyon. Broken ankles both times, and the Grand Canyon one, they got a helicopter to them within 12 hours. The West Fork one, they got a helicopter to them the next day, just due to weather and the unforeseen monsoon that rolled in. They also got short hauled out by two Blackhawks with the National Guard. So this is also a great tool to carry with you. And that is it. There's two other things I put on my mom and dad's list. A whistle, which I don't think you need a picture of what a whistle is, but the louder the better, and a signal mirror. A signal mirror. Recently when we were flying in to find that hunter, it was late afternoon. We had the rough GPS coordinates from their cell phone, but we were flying around for about 20 minutes looking for them. Our dispatch said that the patient's daughter could see us. However, she was wearing camouflage, so we couldn't see her. Luckily, at the last minute, we were able to see her forearms waving down in the bushes, and we were able to land and get him out of there. Cautionary tale, this was an area he's been hunting in for the last 20 years. They were relatively close to a dirt road, but there was no way he was going to get out of there on his own power. So that's the list. Last couple things I'll say. If you do want to learn more about survival skills, bushcraft skills, and how to make it through the night, I would recommend reading Lawrence Gonzalez's book, Deep Survival. Tony Nestor was local, but he ran a really fantastic survival and bushcraft school here in town. Will Gadd does a really good TED Talk on risk and risk analysis. And then I would also recommend perhaps a woofer class or a WAFA, the Wilderness First Aid, if you really want to build your repertoire and feel super safe in the backcountry. That's what we got. Hope that helps you all, and feel free to share anything that you do or don't carry. And I should probably get the weight on all this gear real quick. So let me pull it out on the table, turn this towards Laurel. So you're not going to take the bowl with you, obviously, but that's our tear weight. So everything that's in Laura's pack is 1.9 ounces, so less than 2 pounds. It is a little bit bulky if you're traveling as a as a group, maybe spread the load, but really 2 pounds shouldn't make or break your big adventure. So that's what we got. Thanks, Aislinn.